Kris Ullman worked in the 1990s with Phyllis Schlafly directly. She was the executive director in Washington, D.C. for Eagle Forum. She also served as legislative director for Senator John Ashcroft and was deputy associate attorney at the U.S. Department of Justice in one of their departments. She left outside employment to raise her family. She's almost done with that. She's got one high schooler ready to graduate this year. Don't you have one more in school?
She started college this fall.
Okay, so Kris is back. And come on up, Kris.
Thank you so much, and I'm so delighted to be here. I think it's been about 30 years since I was here. When I was working directly for Phyllis in the 90s, I did come to Alabama one time, but it's been that long since I've been here. And yes, I did in 2001. I had my first child, and then I had two more pretty quickly. And when that happened, I said, I worked for Phyllis Schlafly. There's only one thing to do, and that is to stay home and raise my kids, which I did for 20 years, which was the highlight of my life and my most important vocation. But as the youngest was getting ready, and I was on the board of Eagle Forum, they asked me to come back and be president, and I'm so delighted to be in that role. And to serve all of you and to see what you have done, because this is an organization of volunteers and of grassroots activists, and that is what you guys have done in Alabama in the last year. First of all, makes my job very, very much easier, but it's also being noticed in Washington, D.C. And really in D.C., what the elected representatives want to know is, are there really voters back home who share your positions? And I can go and meet with the Alabama representatives, and they know that there are a lot of Eagles in Alabama that are watching everything they do. So I want to start off, I know that Becky's got me on a time thing, and since January 20th, a lot has happened. I mean, we're kind of coasting there since the election, kind of waiting for things to happen. What we thought was happening actually was happening, and that was President Trump's people were preparing for January 20th in a way that I have never seen in my life. As you know, the first day when he was inaugurated, he signed all those executive orders, and they were very, very well-written orders. It was not like 8 years ago or even 4 years ago with Joe Biden. He hit the ground running. So first of all, you know that they have an executive order to make sure that our federal law defines sex as biological sex, male and female, with an outstanding definition of what is a male and what is a female. And it's those born with either the reproductive capacity to make a large gamete or a small. This is the accepted definition. It's not just chromosomes, because those can be a little funky. So they did that correctly. I'll just briefly run through some of these. Reinstating the military that were discharged for not taking the COVID vax, if they would like, and with back pay. Exit and defund the World Health Organization. This was huge. This is what I spent most of the last year working on. And what was interesting is that I am a founding member of the Sovereignty Coalition, and we have been working on this, but no one from the White House reached out to us. And so when we heard about the executive order, we're like, oh, is it going to be any good? It is phenomenal. First of all, it is phenomenal because it not only says that we're getting out and defunds, but it also says that the international health regulations, which were passed by the WHO in June, will have no effect in the United States. So that was fantastic. And it also says that the pandemic treaty, which we stopped, but they're still negotiating and they're still trying to get it passed. So we are going to have to work on that again this year, whether we're part of the WHO or not, that will actually have no effect in the United States. So that was another great thing. Protecting our kids from chemical and surgical mutilation. This is another huge issue. And when I started on as president of Eagle Forum, the very first thing that Uni said was, By the way, there's this issue in Alabama where the DOJ has subpoenaed Eagle Forum of Alabama for all our records regarding VCAP. So we're going to need your help on that. And I'm like, ooh, okay, that's kind of trial by fire. But that was great. As you know, the Trump administration not only has said that we're going to end any funding of this, but we're also going to stop the weaponization of government to make sure what happened to Eagle Forum of Alabama never happens again. We think about J6 and the weaponization of government. That's very real. That's very bad. But really, Eagle Forum of Alabama had the federal government weaponized against them to want every single document, communications that you all had with your elected officials. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but our First Amendment says we have the freedom of speech and we have the right to assemble and petition our government for redress of grievances. That is exactly what Eagle Forum of Alabama did with the VCAP law. And to have the,
Kris,
yeah.
tell them what the VCAP law is for the
For you guys who are new, it is the law that protects kids from puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries. So, and that is one that is in the pipeline.
that was one of our bills.
Yeah, one of Eagle Forum of Alabama recognized the problem, went to legislators and said, we think something needs to be done on this. This is a horrible thing that's happening, and worked to get that bill passed. That is the way, if you've ever seen the Schoolhouse Rock, that's exactly the way it's supposed to work. That's exactly what you guys did, and the DOJ said, oh, no, 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 no. We need to have your what did you say to the lawmakers? When did you say it? And give us all the information. And that is unconstitutional. So Trump's going to stop that. Immigration, another big issue that the president has declared a national emergency on the border, reinstated Remain in Mexico, and repealed the CPB-1 app. That was the app that allowed illegals to come into the country, fly all around, at taxpayers' expense, even murder young people like Lake and Riley, and wait here for years until they can have their case heard by a judge. And he also declared drug cartels as terrorist organizations, which is all great. The other thing that President Trump has done just this week is he has issued an executive order on educational freedom. And what this does is it requires the Secretaries of Education, Labor, HHS, DOD to issue guidance regarding how states can use federal funds to support K through 12 educational choice initiatives. So it doesn't automatically change the federal law, but it says, hey, secretaries, we're sending a lot of money to the states. How can we free up that money to provide educational choice? And also in education, ending indoctrination in our schools. He said that there will be no funding for diversity, equity, inclusion, critical race theory, and that agencies, and this is really important, agencies must enforce parental rights. The FERPA law, which is a educational rights law, and the PPRA, which is the Protection of Pupil Rights Amendment. This is the one that stops nosy questionnaires. And this was a bill that Phyllis Schlafly and Eagle Forum got passed in the U.S. Congress back in the, I think it was 80s, when that bill was officially passed. And so it has been a big issue for Eagle Forum for a long time. You know the nosy questionnaires that the schools want to send out, asking you if you kids have, do they ever feel depressed? Do your parents have guns in the home? Do your parents support your sexual orientation? All those kind of things. And that is a bill that's been dormant for a while, and so to have President Trump say, we're going to reinvigorate that, we're going to make sure that that's enforced, is a huge win for us, and it's something we're going to have to follow this coming year. Just a couple more on the executive order front. The creation of DOGE, which is the Department of Government Efficiency, and that's going to help us really root out all kinds of wasteful anti-family government programs. Anti-missile defense, he calls it the Iron Dome, but it's going to be more of anti-missile defense because our country's a lot bigger than Israel. Ending remote work for federal employees, and helping those who are not on the agenda, helping to push the agenda, helping them find ways to leave. That's a nice way to put it. And then renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, Mount McKinley, and others. And then repealing 78 Biden executive orders on DEI, climate change, et cetera. So those are just some of the good things that President Trump has done in the last 10 or 11 days, and more is to come. And all these things are fantastic, but I'll tell you what, they're not enough, because executive orders do not have the force of law. So what we need to do on any of these issues that we really like is help Congress pass laws to make these changes permanent. And so that's a lot of what Eagle Forum National's agenda is for this year. We have, obviously, the issues that are closest to us. And let me say that since Eagle Forum's founding, we have advocated for the fundamental right to life of the unborn and the dignity of all human beings from conception until natural death. We believe that the optimal situation for children is to be born and raised in a two-parent family with a mother and a father, and that government policies should recognize this fact and help family formation. So we're going to work to on the following issues that will help us on that front. And so you can see from the handout that's in your folder that we have a lot of priorities. And that's the thing that really separates Eagle Forum from some of the other organizations in DC. And I love all my fellow organizations that focus on pro-life or education or whatever it is. But Phyllis really had a vision, and her vision was almost every issue impacts the family. So we have a lot of different issues that we work on, and we work on them, how do they impact the family? So when we look at the life issue and children, what we see is, first of all, we're working to defund all federal programs that fund abortion. And number one is Planned Parenthood. And this is great. And while the president did announce that we're going to reinstate the Hyde Amendment, which defunds any abortion programs, and Mexico City, which deals with international abortion programs, what he didn't say specifically is Planned Parenthood. And the reason that we need to defund Planned Parenthood, yes, they perform abortions, but what they also do is they provide chemical abortions, the abortion pill, and they are the biggest provider of the puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. So it's not enough to just defund abortion providers, but Planned Parenthood particularly, because that is the head of the beast. So we're going to be working on that. That will also help us defund the provision of abortion pills and cross-sex hormones. We're also very impressed, again, with what Alabama has done in maybe inadvertently raising the issue of in vitro fertilization. And what we have found out is that, and Emma Waters is going to talk about this a little later, is that it's basically the Wild West. It's unregulated. And that simply is unconscionable because of what they do and because of what they tell desperate families. We need to make sure that they're transparent, open, and honest, and responsible and liable for the harm that they sometimes cause. One of the things that's happening in Washington is, in response to Alabama, everybody said, oh, we need to mandate that all insurance companies provide IVF, and that we need to pass a law saying there's a fundamental right to this. And we were like, whoa, stop. This is primarily a state issue, and we do not want the federal government getting involved. So that's going to be another big issue for us. We're also going to work, and this is one issue where we're going to have to work maybe against some of the people in the administration, and that is stopping the regulation of marijuana, the reclassification of marijuana to make it easier. This is, as RFK Jr. has said, make America healthy again. This is one of the big threats to our young people and even to young adults. And we need to make sure that it's harder to get marijuana, that the dangers are clear to everyone, and that we regulate it to the highest extent possible. So those are just some of the things in the life issue. Now, one of the other issues we're going to have to deal with is strengthening and protecting our nation, our border, and our military. We want to restore military superiority. This has always been a big issue for National Eagle Forum. We want to rebuild troop numbers while we're eliminating DEI, critical race theory, and protecting our daughters from selective service or the draft. We were able to beat back that this year, and we plan to, again, we know that that is not a way to increase the numbers in our military, that there's no right to be in our military, and we need the strongest military we can to defend ourselves, our nation, and our families. We're also supporting the strong border policies that President Trump has laid out, and so we'll be working on that, including stopping illegal immigration, deporting criminal aliens, ending non-citizen voting. This is something that we really need to do. And also supporting ending birthright citizenship, because there's a little clause in the 14th Amendment that says if you're born or naturalized here and you're subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. What does that mean? It means that if you're a foreign dignitary and you have a baby on U.S. soil, that baby is not a citizen. So we know that that phrase means something, and we need to bring it back. Again, on national sovereignty, we're going to continue our efforts to get us out of the WHO permanently, and Representative Andy Biggs has a bill that will do just that, and that's our #1 priority on the WHO. And I talked to him last week. He wants to put that bill in the budget reconciliation, that big tax and border package. It will make it very, very hard for the opponents to kill it, and that is the easiest way. So we're going to be working on that. We're going to need all your help to contact your federal officials and make sure that that stays in the reconciliation package. We're also going to be requiring that any international agreement, treaty, or whatever is voted on by our United States Senate. That is something that hasn't happened in a long time, and our national sovereignty demands that we do that. Under national sovereignty, I've also listed, very important, as we talked about the natural asset companies, we're talking about 15-minute cities, the smart cities, the sustainable development goals, all those things that really attacked our right to private property and land ownership, and also impact our ability to provide our own food and, again, make America healthy again. So that's another big issue for us. And under that, one of the benefits of the wisdom of Phyllis Schlafly is we have all her writings, and maintaining control of the Panama Canal, regaining control, was something that she fought so hard against the Carter administration, giving that away. And I'm so happy that I get to carry on her legacy and hopefully regain control of the Panama Canal. So that's another big issue for us. I hope you all will help us on that front as well. There are many other issues, obviously fiscal responsibility, balancing our budget. I just read the other day that every American, you have like $100,000 responsibility of our federal budget deficit, so pay up. Or you won't have to pay up, but your children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren will. So we also want to repeal any of the Green New Deal and any of the crazy climate policies. And it's interesting, we deal with so many issues. We deal with issues that affect the family, national sovereignty, and one of the most popular issues that we dealt with in the last year was the issue of the Biden administration coming after our cars, our gas stoves, our water heaters, and our light bulbs. And Trump has promised to repeal those, but we need to get rid of that in law, so I hope you'll help us finally get rid of the government coming into our very homes, telling moms and dads what kind of washer and dryer you can have and what kind of light bulb you can have. So we're going to work on that. And the other big issue, I'm running out of time. I've got 1 minute left, and I cannot.
Well, we have questions.
Yes.
So
I cannot be the president of Eagle Forum and not bring up our efforts to oppose a constitutional convention and any efforts to call for an Article 5 convention of the states. This is a very, very big issue. Let me say, we at Eagle Forum, we know the problems that are facing our country. We know the budget and the deficit are huge issues. We know we have people who stay in Washington way too long. But the way to solve these issues is to not open up our Constitution. When we look at the media, social media, the left, if we were to call a constitutional convention, I can guarantee you that we would end up with a national right to abortion on demand for all 9 months. We would end up with radical transgender rights, anti-family and anti-parent rights. So there are ways to solve these problems, and we are going to work on them together, but we will not allow our precious Constitution to be opened up.
Everybody give Kris a big round of applause.
All right, I have a few more minutes, and I just want to close with a little inspirational thing. How many here have read Lord of the Rings? Hopefully a lot of people have. Well, there's a quote from the Lord of the Rings from Gandalf says when Merry and Pippin go up to Fangorn, and it says, "It was more than mere chance that brought Merry and Pippin to Fangorn. Their coming will be like the falling of small stones that starts an avalanche in the mountains. A thing is about to happen that has not happened since the elder days. The Ents are going to wake up and find out that they are strong." Merry and Pippin were the smallest of all the people, the hobbits. They were very small. They didn't think they had a lot of power. You all are like that. You don't have to change the world. You only have to do your one little part to kick that one little stone that will start the avalanche. And that's what Eagle Forum is all about, empowering each one of us to just kick that one little stone so we can wake up the people and really use our power. And I encourage all of you, whether it's writing a letter, making a phone call, going to a meeting, telling your hairdresser or the person at the grocery store about one important issue, you can do it. You can be a part of starting the mighty avalanche that will bring back our country. So join us to fight for faith, family, and freedom with Eagle Forum. Thank you.